Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of This is the WayPoint. Joining me today, I, of course, am RoboPack92, and I will not forget to mention that like 5 minutes into the episode this time. I'm doing it right now. Right now, I'm doing it. Joining me today, directly on my right, is the one, the only, the haircutted some other Josh.
Yeah. Did I speak just like that fish lady? Was that good?
It was weirdly really good.
Yeah, thank you.
How long you been practicing?
Since I rolled credits, baby. Since I rolled credits.
Just immediately, he's like, I gotta rewind it. I gotta figure this out.
Exactly.
In my top right, in his beautiful ass Spider-Man chair, the one and only Jordan Deeb.
What's up? What's up? Josh, I do want to say it almost sounded like you were doing a really bad impression of trying to sing Down with the Sickness. Like,
so I think it's canon then, right, that Lizard Lady is in a System of a Down cover band.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sorry, The Disturbed. That's a Disturbed song. Yeah.
I just know the meme.
It's all good. I went with that and I was like, wait, that's not right. And then, of course, friend of the show, also co-host on this show, directly above me is Sir Jim Tasty.
Hey guys, number one Trapper Wolf Stan reporting for duty.
The number one, huh?
Something like
I
that.
believe it.
Top 10, top 5.
So, well, for those of you that might not know and are joining us on episode 2 for whatever reason, stop this, go back, watch the first episode, then come here, because each and every week we are coming here to discuss week by week, episode by episode, season 2 of The Mandalorian. Today, we're going to be talking about chapter 2, episode 2, The Passenger. I'd like to start it off and just say, give me your general thoughts, y'all. What do you think? I'm gonna start with you today, Brett.
Well, yeah, without getting into like the actual story beats, I still had a lot of fun watching the episode. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. It didn't rock my world. It didn't make me look at Star Wars in a completely new way. But I had a lot of fun watching the episode, and yeah, kind of like what I said last week is like the technical aspects of the show is just off the charts. So it's just gorgeous to watch too.
I totally agree. And I mean, it's like we'll get into the actual story beats here in just a few minutes. But I mean, I had that same thought that I did last week, where of course last week there's that shot of the crate dragon like coming up out of the side of the mountain and they're jetpacking around it and stuff. And I had a similar thing to where they're being attacked by the giant Krykna spider, and it's coming through the ceiling, and there's tons of them everywhere. And I had that exact same thought. I was like, they had way more budget this season. This looks amazing. I was like, it just looks good. Jordan, what about you, man? What are your general thoughts on this episode?
I mean, if no one else is going to say it, then I will. Guys, Baby Yoda eats pussy.
Dude, I think they were unfertilized eggs. I think there was like some sort of blog post on some Star Wars website that said they weren't actually fertilized.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's
that was something
Yeah, if they were fertilized, that wouldn't be pussy. They'd be eating babies, which is horrible.
At first I was like, dude, this guy eat like 10 kids or something. Like, what's going on?
I know. I think they pointed out, like specifically pointed out that they were unfertilized, like while they were in the canteen or something.
No.
If I remember correctly.
I also really thought it was going to be a plot point. Like, this is going to sound horrible. I really thought that she was going to lose the eggs and be devastated, and then Baby Yoda was just going to like pull it back out of his mouth, and it was going to be like
I have one.
Exactly. As for the budget, the scene for me that made me realize how big the budget wasn't the spider scene, was the when he's like crash landing onto the planet that we spend most of the episode at, and he's chasing and he's trying to get away from the two X-wings. That's what made me go, "Oh, this budget is nice."
I did love that scene. They did the one thing that always kind of pulls me out of a movie though, which is that digital zoom. to where he's flying down and it punches in super fast on the ship and it's kind of shaky a little bit and I was like, that's not a real camera. And I can always tell and it bothers me every single time one of those shots come up. But they do look cool at the same time and what a sequence that was. I can't wait to talk about that one.
Right.
What about you, Josh? What'd you think?
I did not like this episode. No way. My arachnophobia was acting way the fuck up. I do not fuck with no spiders. Also, like, I really didn't find it to propel the story, the overarching story, forward. Like, this season definitely is feeling a lot more like Monster of the Week with each episode, especially with the Crate Dragon last week and then the spiders this week. And like, I didn't initially really like last week's episode until we talked about it, and then y'all were going into like a lot of the expanded universe stuff and the canon pieces with the Marshall, and then I rewatched it and I like came around on it, but this was definitely like feels a lot more Monster of the Week, doesn't really propel it forward.
That's fair. So me personally, I don't have a huge issue with the Monster of the Week kind of thing. Like that's not something that's ever bothered me, but something that I really liked about last week's episode, like to mention on your point, which is there were a lot of like little expanded universe connections in all those sorts of things, and even if I mean obviously it's the first episode, so it's really got to push the plot in that one, and this one doesn't really do either of those things. Like it's kind of like another step forward in the plot, but not super far. And then there's really like little to no expanded universe stuff going on in this one. But I don't dislike it for that. I did hate the spiders because I do not fuck with spiders at all, and they look so realistic, and I hate that. It is. Brittany hasn't watched it yet, and she hates spiders more than I do. And I texted her while I was watching it. I was like, "You're gonna hate this one, dude. Like it's bad. You're gonna hate this episode because they're creepy, and when the mouth like stuck on the." I'm really glad he used a flamethrower at one point because I was like, "Yes, that was the proper response."
Yeah.
So it's like I didn't hate it. I did really like the X-wing chase because I'm a sucker for a good X-wing chase. Like it's just
absolutely.
You put X-wings in something, I'm probably gonna like it. And so let's go ahead and then start talking about some of the general story beats. Then I think I'll kick this one off. I guess I am a little disappointed that it doesn't move the plot forward all that much. I mean, it kind of does towards the end when they finally get off the planet and that sort of thing. But they're kind of stuck there for a little while, and it's yet another episode too where something happens to a ship, man.
Oh yeah, no, I had that.
That Razor Crest has the worst luck, dude. It breaks like every other episode.
The New Republic pilots mentioned like, dude, this ship is so old. Like,
yeah.
So, you know.
And I mean, if you want to get into some lore stuff too, I don't remember specifically where I read this. I think it might have just been like on like a Star Wars.com blog post where they just kind of talk about it. But the Razor Crest is actually a Clone Wars era ship. So it's like a 60, 70-year-old ship at this point.
I think they said pre-Clone Wars in the show, right?
It's even older than. Like I mean, that thing's old as shit. And I did like the X-wing.
Somewhere around that era.
The X-wing pilots kind of dunking on him a little bit. They were like, "Yeah, dude, this thing is old. Like, you need to put some new stuff in there, man."
Right.
Yeah.
I did like that, but that thing breaks like every other episode, man. He's got the worst luck.
I know, man.
Right.
I wonder. It didn't even occur to me until this episode, but like maybe he gets like a new ship this season or something.
I was curious about that myself.
Probably they got to sell those toys.
Season. Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Or I mean, he'll get like a huge upgrade to where it's still the Razor Crest, but it's like a newer. I mean, it's like Poe Dameron had the black one, and then it gets blown up in Last Jedi, and then he's rolling around with that white and orange one in the last one, and that's two separate toys you can sell,
What if it's the slave one? What if
fuck.
he gets the slave one?
Oh shit!
It's the last ship.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. That's okay with me.
It's sitting on Tatooine somewhere.
It's just all
Exactly.
silver. It's just all silver this time, though.
Yeah.
They're just trying to make Din Djarin the new Boba Fett, like. But as far as the plot goes, I did think this is actually one of the better like cold opens in the series. I really enjoyed that whole bit where he gets mugged and straps his jetpack to the dude, and just specifically because he hits the button, the dude goes flying, and Yoda kind of looks at him, he's like, "Wow, seriously?" And he just goes,
What you want me to do?
Yeah, he's like, what? Yeah.
I wasn't expecting him to get it back like that. I thought that as the dude was running away with it, he was just gonna shoot him.
Oh yeah, I was thinking. I thought he was just gonna whip it out real fast and blast him, but that was way better. What we got was way better. It's interesting to me that it stands up on its own too when he takes it off and puts it in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool.
I wonder if I had this thought of like watching, especially the cold open of like Yoda or not Yoda. The child has seen a lot of like nasty things, and even harps on it last episode where he's like, yeah, he's used to it, and it's like. When you're a young impressionable kid, those things stick with you a little bit more than it might normally. So
there's gonna be a murder Yoda.
Yeah, maybe he's like the Jedi that blows up Luke's temple or something. I don't know.
A Yoda with PTSD.
Yeah. Well, he's already got those violent tendencies. The way he was choking Cara Dune in like the 7th episode last season. Yeah. So he's getting there for sure.
And he never feeds the kid either. Like,
yeah,
I know. No wonder he's trying to eat them eggs all the time, man. He doesn't feed it.
Yeah.
I did think it was there are two just like absolutely adorable scenes in this episode. The one is in that cold open when he waddles back over to then and he picks him up. I was just like, the puppet. I've never felt feelings for a puppet like that before. He's so cute. But then also because for whatever reason that they couldn't travel in light speed, they had to go sublight, and so he's actually like literally flying. And then he's like, all right, nap time, and he just crawls into that little bed, and he's got the little hammock like above for the child, and then it was just like, I love that. That's so great. Like,
I wondered where he slept on there.
I know it's so cramped,
but it must be deeper than I thought.
We can't really go and give him a smaller ship at this point.
I know.
Yeah, it had to be bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I mean, to be fair, like half that ship's storage is reserved for carbonite passengers.
Right.
Fair.
I did like that. So I like the cold opening. It's unlike most episodes. I think I like that it basically picked up like right where the last one left off.
Yeah.
Like that was cool that it starts out where he's still on the speeder bike where he ended the last episode, and that was really cool because there's usually like like at the very least like a day or so in between each episode, which is cool.
Absolutely.
I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I like that you had a short scene where it goes back into the Mos Eisley Cantina, like that.
Right.
That one got me. It's so cool to see like such a classic scene in a different light like that. Like that's really cool. And then I mean always shout out to all their alien designs and stuff. I mean dude was just literally a big ant.
Dr. Mandible makes his return. I think that was literally his name, Dr. Mandible.
Yeah, Dr. Mandible. Yeah. Who was of course one of the aliens that was originally in the scene in A New Hope and has one of those absolutely ridiculous names like Hammerhead, Dr. Mandible, whatever. Like
yeah, it might still be him.
I was about to say I think it's Star Wars. It has to be, right?
For sure.
Snaggletooth.
Something I was wondering too is Snaggletooth. That's right. Is when he goes back in, Dr. Mandible, and I can never remember the woman's name with the curly hair.
Yeah.
Amy Sedaris.
Yeah, it's
Amy
always
Sedaris.
Amy Sedaris for me. It's whatever. Is that Dr. Mandible and Amy Sedaris are playing? I keep wanting to say Dejarik, and that's not right. They're playing cards.
It's not Pazak. That's KOTOR.
Yeah. Yeah. Pazak is the one that gets me.
Man.
Oh no, they play it in solo, and I can't remember the name of it.
Couldn't tell you.
All right, well, whatever it is. Is there playing? Yeah, Uno. Space Uno.
Space Uno, yeah.
They're playing cards, and as I look at that, and I was like, I wonder if those are just like the cards that they sell at Galaxy's Edge. Sabak, thank you. Yeah. Sabak, yeah. So she's holding the cards, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, those look suspiciously exactly like the ones that they sell at Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, how is she gonna do it, right? Like,
right.
I mean, if they paid for a full deck of cards, how are they going to do the cool chase scene? So it's like, you got
yeah, exactly. They ran down to Disney World real fast. Like, I need one of these. Hopefully, they're not sold out because they're typically sold out. But I like that whole thing, and Shout out again, just to kind of touch on like some expanded universe. It's not really expanded universe. I guess it's just kind of behind the scenes thing. Is that one of the X-wing pilots was Dave Filoni,
Yeah.
who of course is the creator director of Clone Wars and Rebels and Resistance, and also
Right.
directed a couple episodes last season. And I think he might be directing a few episodes this season too.
Mhm.
Yeah, like 1 or 2 probably, I think.
Yeah, I think like episode 5 might be written by him.
Yeah.
Written and
Yeah.
directed, yeah.
And of course, I mean, he is kind of he's George Lucas's protege. I mean, I don't think anyone else knows as much about Star Wars as Dave Filoni, other than George Lucas. Like, I mean, the dude's next George, and he's great, and I'm happy. I'm very happy to see him in more like live action stuff, because I mean, he typically just is the animated. But it sounded like, because they had to run up Din's ship, and they were like, "Oh, you were at this this prison breakout from last season," and where there were also X-wing pilots, but one of the X-wing pilots in that scene was also Dave Filoni.
Right.
So yeah, it's the same. And so I'm it's like, wouldn't you know that he was there? You were there. So I was like, do they have the same actor playing two different characters?
Well, because in season 1, the rebel ships don't show up until they get to the space station, not
That's
the
true.
prison ship. And I don't know how, I can't remember how it works, but like
they kind of like flew
exiting
past each other, I think.
they're exiting hyperspace after, like, right when he's like sublighting away.
Leaving.
So
yeah,
you know, it could get dicey there. You know, you're dealing with a lot of like instruments while you're coming out of hyperspace, so maybe you just didn't see him.
So I have one question then, just regarding this plot. We know that Mandalorians are very hard to find. Like that's kind of something that's been hammered over and over again. How the hell do they keep finding one person that's like, oh yeah, I've seen a Mandalorian, like in every single episode?
That's why I think it's kind of like, because you never hear a person that goes, I found one. It's like a person who's heard of a person who's heard of a person that's found one. So I hope it's not a thing where the entire season is him trying to find one single Mandalorian, and then season 3 can be putting the child on whatever planet Yoda is from, because they won't fucking tell us, and all that. So I think it's just one of those things where it sounds like it's a legend. I wouldn't be surprised if all of these stories are supposed to be the same Mandalorian.
So you might have turned my opinion on that back around, because I thought that's kind of like convenient, but then you're like, yeah, it usually is just like, oh, I know a guy who knows a guy who's supposedly seen a Mandalorian, and I did. So that's, yeah, you might have. I'm back on it again. You got me. You got me. But something I did like about this, as opposed to the previous episode, was it's like, oh yeah, there's a Mandalorian in this town. It's like one Mandalorian, which of course turned out to just be Cobb Vanth wearing Boba's armor. But this one that I liked is that is like, I know this person whose husband has seen a Mandalorian coven.
And is like currently working with them.
Yeah, it's a bunch of them, which I think was that was kind of his goal. He's like, I need to find I know there's other covens out there, and I need to find like another group of Mandalorians, because they'll probably have the resources to help me. And so that at least does feel like it's like, okay, maybe we'll actually see more than Boba Fett this season. Although I wouldn't be surprised, Jordan, if he does spend the entire season looking for Mandalorians, and then we see them maybe the last episode.
Right.
No, but I mean, if they could keep my attention doing it, that's fine. Because another thing I was going to say is, while most people I feel like had mixed opinions about this episode, I liked it, and I think something season 1 taught me was that there is never truly filler with this show.
Yeah.
And that everything in some form of a way that he does will come back. And I think we saw it in this episode, where they've listed everything in season 1 as to why they didn't arrest him this season.
Yeah. That was nice.
So I'm interested to see where this plot ends up in the grander scheme of things.
Right. There's that.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
That's all you, man. I run the show. You're fine. You go.
I was gonna say, I really like that they brought the droid back, and they used him as a translator between the Frog Lady and Mandalorian.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
I did like that, especially because the voice actor too is he plays one of my favorite characters on a show called the IT Crowd.
Right.
That.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, he's back. Yay.
I noticed this interesting dichotomy between this episode and the last episode. Was Din was super, reverent of the Tusken Raider culture, their language, and stuff. And then and I think the frog lady is literally credited as frog lady in this show at the end credit. But like literally, he's like, dude, I don't speak frog. Like,
yeah.
just
Yeah.
that difference
Yeah.
of like,
He's very
hey, like,
ignorant towards them.
hey, Cobb, like, you got to be respectful. And then he's like, dude, I don't speak your language, dude. Like, or lady, like, so like, it's interesting seeing that, and also, uh, man, near like the 70% mark of the show of this episode, where he kind of wants to bail on the quest of ferrying the
Right.
lady over to Trask, and how I think it might have been, I can't remember, I think it was the first episode where in the little flashback sequence they showed Quill doing his speech about how the old ways need to die. Um, and after this episode, I kind of took that to maybe mean like the strict Mandalorian code he's observing, because he was super cognizant. He's always like, yeah, don't take off my helmet. But then he has to be reminded of actually completing the job that he took instead of bailing on it. So like even Din is a little flaky on certain aspects of his own code. So I
Right.
thought that was super that's what I was saying earlier, Chris, when it was just us two, of like there were some deeper things you could look into with this show of like, okay, like he doesn't want to take off his helmet, but he's willing to bail on like the job he took. So
Yeah,
I just thought that
he's
was
like, you know
interesting.
what? There's spiders and shit. I'm done. Like I'm finished with this. So something I wanted to go back on as well, Jordan, is I really liked your point of is like there's never really filler in this show, and I think now especially that we're in season 2, like we're starting to see progression on top of things that were introduced in the first season, which I think will just progressively make the show like deeper and more interesting. But it's like even on episodes like this where the majority of the episode doesn't push it too far as just like plot progression, if you want to call it that. I've seen people even call this like side missions episode, right? Like
Yeah.
but it's still he's still further along in it than where he started in that one, and they do a good job of, even if it's this episode does kind of meander off of the main path a bit, but you get back on it at the end, and now we're going into the next episode still with that goal of like, okay, we need to find your husband on whatever planet this is, and I still like that. It's like even if it doesn't fully service the overall arc, it's still pushing it forward enough to where there's a clear and defined goal that we have to do in this next episode.
Definitely. And with the whole, with the Mandalorian technically being a Western, and I didn't know this until a friend explained it to me, but that Westerns are supposed to be, the cowboy, which in this case is Mando, who kind of falls in love with something that takes him out of this lifestyle. If that's supposed to be the end goal of him finding something that he's attached to, whether it be like a girlfriend, a wife, or just the child, for him to take care of as his own child, in a way, every episode is important because it's going to grow his development, I think, into that final stride a little bit. So it was definitely a more, especially the first half, a slightly more boring episode. You're like, I wonder where this is going, and it really doesn't go as far as you think it does.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very clearly inspired by a lot of westerns, especially if you look at the last episode, which was almost straight up a western. It took place out in the desert. You had the marshal, a lone gun. I mean, and so, but I mean, like one of the central themes of the show overall is that sort of like lone gun kind of thing. It's equally western, but also kind of equally like samurai film though too, where you had kind of have like the lone wolf and cub sort of thing. And so I think you can see. I think it's easy to make a lot of comparisons to things like my mind goes to like the first like Last of Us game, for instance, which kind of has like that similar thing. Is like rough and tumble dude lives by his own rules, and then has this here's this kid that he's got to take care of that he doesn't like at 1st, but now he kind of does. I actually to compound on that, I just watched one of Video Game Donkey's most recent video where he talks about he like reviews The Last of Us 2 by going through a bunch of like YouTube comments, and he compares Last of Us 2 to Up. Because it's got a grumpy dude and a kid that he doesn't like at first, who then they go on an adventure, and then the grumpy dude like learns to grow out of his shell and likes the kid. And I was like, damn, he kind of right though.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just looking at Mandalorian, and I'm like, you're kind of like Up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disney properties.
Yeah, exactly. It's all. I think it's fair to say now that Up is canon in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, no. Mando watched it once, like off screen, before the first season even takes place, and it changed him.
Yeah, 100%.
Right before he took that bounty.
Yeah.
He's like crying
Sometimes
in his helmet.
Yeah. He just picks up Baby Yoda sometimes, and in his head goes, "You are my Russell."
Oh man, but yeah, overall, plot was fine for me. Like it didn't do anything crazy. It's again, I don't have a huge issue with the monster of the week kind of thing, and so you get to that. There was an overall theme though that I just for me personally, I was like throughout the entire episode, I was just kind of uncomfortable. Because it's like he couldn't communicate with this frog lady at all, and was having a hard time doing that, and it was and like she was just kind of weird and doing frog lady things. Especially once she like finds the hot tub and is like naked all of a sudden. I was like, what the fuck is this episode?
She has like, I don't know how to explain this translated into like a frog alien, but like her outfit and like her way of walking, she has like quirky aunt energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm happy that you guys know what I'm talking about.
And so that was just uncomfortable. And then also, I mean, it's funny but weird that the child is like so like trying so hard to eat this woman's eggs.
I know.
It's so weird.
I love it.
Bro, because I was trying to count like how many he ate throughout the episode. It had to been like 10 to 15.
He ate like half of them.
Because
there's almost none at the end.
there's that break where like Mando's knocked out for a while and Baby Yoda was eating a ton of them, you assume. And like she doesn't pick up on it at all.
I know,
like,
yeah, it's so weird.
Again, I thought it was gonna lead into a conflict or somehow a solution. And then I was like, that is weird. And now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, but caviar, right? Like
yeah, it was just weird to watch. And yeah, I also thought the same thing to where it was like, oh, okay, Yoda eating like, or the child eating like half of her eggs is gonna be like important to the plot, and it super wasn't.
No,
right.
And
that
was all. Go for it. It's all you.
Oh, I was gonna say, I love it though. Like every time you see it, you're like, oh, this little fucker, right? Every time he pops up, even the first moment when he like walks up to the bottle and like his head is expanded, and there's that like shot where he's he's just looking in, and then he's eating him, and then throughout, even like at the bath, he's trying to eat him, and then like pops one last one in it at the
the very last one, like right at the end, dude.
You just can't help.
It's so good.
Be like, oh, this little fucker.
We did get and I think you guys say GIF, right?
Yeah.
Who says GIF?
Yeah, because we're normal.
Yes.
Jordan, you say GIF too?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I'm alone here. I'll say it for you guys. We get an all-time GIF moment of Din doing the little finger wag.
Like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, I saw it. I watched the episode and then I saw it on Twitter later that day. I'm like, oh man, like I gotta save this.
Perfect.
I did love that scene though too, because he talks to the child for a second the same way I talk to my dog, to where he's like reaching for him in the hot tub and he goes, no.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I was about to say. It's like it was one step away from just like rolling up a newspaper and like swatting him with.
Bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad baby Jedi.
And so it's like all of that was just, it was funny, but it was weird. It just made me uncomfortable. Everything to do with the frog lady, especially when she starts actually jumping around like a frog.
Right.
Yeah.
But then just to compound on top of that, which actually before I go on, I thought it was a nice little touch. I was like, okay, she runs like a frog. That's really funny. But then they get to the point where he turns around, he blasts it with the flamethrower, and he turns back around, and then she's running on two legs again. I was like, what happened?
She got some distance.
Yeah, she's like, this is fine.
Inner hallway, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that was funny.
The
but
one
it's
that
like
was more drawing.
What's that, Josh?
Oh, I was gonna say the one that was more drawing for me was when she's like still naked in the hot tub and like spiders are coming out, and she like turns around and like gets her clothes with her tongue.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And like one go to, she's got it all on.
She was ready to go, man.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fast.
But it's like to compound on like how already uncomfortable I am is. Then they put gross space spiders into the thing, which I will give a shout out to the beginning of that scene where he discovers all of these eggs. Child got a real thing for eggs, but
Right.
then it's just great visual design where I was looking around, I was like, this just looks like Alien. I was like, don't touch those eggs.
Yeah, you knew something was up.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were gonna hatch and the things were gonna like. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't think spider eggs. I thought maybe it was gonna be like another creature that's. I don't know how to explain it, but a little bit more of a sentient creature was inside them. I think is the best way to explain it.
So
You guys say that scared you. Like, have you guys never seen Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets? I mean, Aragog and this spider, same thing.
I know. It did remind me a lot of the Aragog scene, which I also hated. So
Oh, okay.
those ones were hairy, and that made it worse.
You don't like
so,
it, Harry?
No, man, that's my scale, right? Is if a spider is big enough to see hair on it, it's too big. That's where I'm at with it. Or if
It's weird.
they're giant white tall spiders in space, also bad.
It's weird, like watching that in Harry Potter, watching this in Mandalorian, like it doesn't scare me. But dude, if I see one in real life, then I lose it. I can't handle it. I don't know why. Like there's that.
I don't do spiders. I was traditionally like fine with spiders. Like even after watching Chamber of Secrets when I was younger, I was fine with spiders until I was living in New Mexico and I got a big ass wolf spider in my room.
Ooh, yeah.
Nope.
That's no
And
bueno.
that killed spiders for me. I don't like I'd go back and watch Chamber of Secrets with this one. I was like, yep, don't like it. Don't like them anymore. It's like that ruined spiders for me. I was fine before then. I don't know what happened. It was that seeing one ruined it.
Yeah, it's just clearly scarier than Chamber of Secrets because it's like one space spider because they had, in my opinion, like squid-like elements too.
Yeah, because they were like tall.
Yeah,
Like a squid.
and then it's just obviously this was framed in a way that's much less kid-friendly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's they like again like shout out to the budget and the animation team, but they made them like convincingly move like real spiders too, and it was just unsettling. I didn't like that. I don't like their legs.
I know they're big on practical effects in this show, but and sorry to interrupt. I think the CGI helped a little bit, and sometimes I wish that they would add just a touch of CGI to the child because he moves so stiffly. And like they had a scene where he's like supposed to be sliding down the snow, and it's a half second because I think it would have looked awkward seeing him perfectly stand up straight and slide down.
Yeah.
So I think a touch of CGI would actually help with the child's movements. But
I
whoever was
wonder
gonna
if they and I don't know 100%, but like if they have the puppet, but then they kind of do like a coating of CGI to like because I feel like there's
they
some
have
scenes.
to.
I feel like there's some scenes where he looks like way too good for a puppet. You know what I mean? But there's obviously those moments where he's like stop motion, like
when he's very much when he's very much muppeting around, like yeah, for sure.
from an engineer who discovered he can make him go like this, and they're like, we gotta run with that. We spent $1 bajillion doing this tech.
Yeah.
We need 8 scenes of him eating eggs.
And one of a spider.
Brett and I did a little pre-show investigation to where these are Krykna spiders, Krykna, and we'd had that thing to where initially like both he and I were like, man, it's like we really thought it was like this one like a Kinrath spider from Knights of the Old Republic. And again, just I mean, keep that those Korto references coming, but it is not. It is a Krykna spider, which was though, I believe originally introduced to us in Rebels.
Yes.
Because I was sitting there, I was like, I've seen this spider before, and I don't know where. And I couldn't put my finger on it. But yeah, they are in Rebels, not in that kind of numbers.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
They look much more frightening in Mandalorian.
They're very cartoony in Rebels.
I'm trying to think of the size in Rebels. They seem to be like human size, but that one in Mandalorian was like
Massive.
20 feet tall or something.
Yeah,
that one was
easily.
huge. And,
Regional differences or something, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think it was probably just like age. I
because
guess
we
it
saw
was
them
an old
hatch, and
spider.
they're, like, that's big, so it must be at some point.
Yeah,
Dude, those eyes are
that big
freaky,
one.
man.
That big one was probably the queen.
Yeah.
I don't know
Right.
what it is with spiders, man. They put all this fucking reshook spiders in Jedi Fallen Order and made me fight them, and I was
I
just
know.
like, that one got me too because they just look like regular spiders but big. And
I was gonna say the chase scene from the spiders almost reminded me of like Uncharted, where I can't remember. I think it's happened in 2 games where at one point they fall down and there's snakes, and another there's spiders, and you literally have the flame and you're trying to get them
yeah,
away. I think
Mhm.
the
yeah,
spider one.
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
first. That was the first one for sure. I know.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I
Uh,
mean that one came to mind for me. And I was
I mean,
just
for me,
like,
it was you mentioned it earlier, but it reminded me a ton of Chamber of Secrets.
both,
yeah.
yeah.
the
Uh,
beginning when he crawled out, I was like, oh, it's like space Aragog. And
yeah.
then when he's finally in the ship and he finally decides to use the flamethrower, which I was yelling at my screen, I was just like,
I know. I was
man,
like, that's how you kill spiders is with fire.
You only had 3 bombs too. Like he's got to throw them all out
I
there.
know,
Right.
right? But
They can't.
oh, go for it. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say like it didn't bother me, but I kind of actually liked it. But how they're running from the cave to the ship, and like the spiders are like on them at all times, but somehow never get to them. They never get got by the
Right.
spiders.
Oh
Like,
yeah, which is
like
one of those things where I was like, these spiders are clearly faster than they are.
yeah,
Like, clearly faster than
Yeah.
they.
moving
But
and grooving.
they did again, just to talk about the visual, they did such a great job of making them look creepy, and they're all like crawling over the top of each other and stuff, and
Yeah.
getting everywhere. And that bit where he's like trying to close the door, and they're trying, and they're
Mhm.
starting to come in. I
Mhm.
was like,
Yeah.
nah, eh.
And
Hey.
how long were the spiders in the back part of the ship? Because he immediately goes
For a
in there
while.
and it's like
It's just web.
it's full web
I think they were. I think
spider
they were
helm.
spitting them though too. Which again, shout out. I mean, it's I did like that they actually like spit the webs at
Right.
them, and you see a good bit of that. And yeah, I think they just
Mhm.
went
Got
in
his
there.
hand stuck to the.
They just went in there and went crazy, man.
Absolutely.
spitting webs everywhere. But yeah.
I do like that one shot during the chase sequence where they're like tracking them up the wall a bit, like
Oh yeah.
following them as they're running,
Yeah.
and then when he like first starts up the flamethrower, and then it just does that cut to outside the cave, similar to like the second episode when he fights the rhino, where you just
Mhm.
see the blaster shots, but you just see the flame uh, all along the ice wall, and then they just run back out. I
Yeah.
felt like this episode did a great job of building tension.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like I was, and I mean, it's
Mhm.
not just like an arachnophobia thing, too. But
Yeah.
I was like, there was a good. They kept that sort of energy up. I was like, how the hell are they gonna get out of this?
Right.
You know.
And they they technically didn't, which I want to make a good point on how uh because the New Republic pilots weren't necessarily antagonists, but they were not completely on Mando's side, but they actually weren't like doofuses. Like
Mhm.
they like tracked him down. They were like, oh yeah, they probably had some heat signature or something. All this stuff going off in this cave.
Mhm.
They like they
I
were
was
Right.
gonna
just
say
waiting
they
there.
probably saw like the 80-foot spider crawling on the surface of the planet, and they're like, aha.
Yeah.
But
that's our leader.
yeah, excellent. But you do make a great point though, like especially at the end, because they have that exchange, to where Mando's like, he's like, okay, I'll do this thing if you help me with the ship, and they were just like, how about you put a transponder on your ship and we won't blow you up, and then they just leave.
Right.
I always kind of like when they show that the rebels or the New Republic, whatever, aren't like pure altruists. Like they're not all good people.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're not angels. They're like, you're a criminal. Fuck
Yeah,
you.
it gave good insight, I think. Just small little details of like the state of the galaxy. Of like, obviously, um, Trapper Wolf's helmet was a little bit different in this episode. He had a couple more insignias on his helmet and stuff, so he's had more service. And then also like, it's what roughly 5-6 years after episode 6, so
Yeah.
they probably don't have full control of the galaxy, just quite yet. So they're, only 2, ship patrol in like this random, outer rim sector. So I just thought it was cool of like, just those like little universe building details of
Mhm.
like, okay, it's not like this full armada patrolling. It's just literally 2 X-Wings.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like it's because they're so new. They basically have to rule with like what do you call an iron fist?
Yeah.
Like, no shit's given. We can't, because, someone who's studied history, when a new government takes over, you kind of have to, or else you leave room for a power vacuum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. And so I mean, it's again, just like last season, I think they do a good job of like showing as like, hey, like the New Republic's no pushover, like they'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And so the last thing I think I want to touch on here is just, we kind of mentioned it earlier, but shout out to that fucking X-wing chase scene, man.
Yeah.
That shit was
Absolutely.
rad.
Yeah.
I like it, like right from the get-go. They established that he can't use is it Starlight or whatever, where he can't go
Hyperspace.
incredibly fast.
Yeah, he can't go
hyperspace.
hyperspace, so he has to use his sunlight
Exactly.
engines. Mm-hmm.
And then they come out of hyperspace and they're just kind of chatting with him for a bit, and then they're like, "All right, let's flip over to channel 2." And then they're on channel 2 for a bit, and you're like, "Ah, shit."
You knew
And then
something was going
Yeah,
down
that's when you know
immediately.
immediately they're like,
And
oh
then the
no.
X-wings like open up, and you're like, "Here we go, here we go," and it's full on like.
they use their
100%.
brains to figure out it's the same ship that was attacking that prison ship. Like,
Mhm.
Right.
they weren't complete morons. This episode, like, so that was cool.
Yeah, dude, I did love that moment to where it's the camera's like mostly on Din's helmet, and you just see the X-wing like outside of his cockpit, and then yeah, the X foils open up, and you're like, uh-oh.
Here we go.
With all those excuses not to turn on, his transponder or get certain
Right.
information. He's like, oh wait, hold on, here it is, and he's like flipping the switch and stuff.
Like, I found it. Yeah,
Oh,
that was great. I loved that. I think we kind of touched on just about everything that I wanted to. I don't know if there's anything else that you guys wanted to mention at all.
I like how and this, I like how they don't like name every planet they go to. So like we landed on this ice planet, and I fall prey to this too, but I'm like, Ilum, or like I'm like,
yeah, 100%.
What ice planet is it? Ilum?
Right.
But like it 99% probably isn't, but like
I
I just like how they don't, obviously, for certain movies like with Rogue One, and it's good to have this stuff, but I also like how they don't and let you figure it out for yourself later, or just that's not important to the story. It's not important to what's going on. It's about Din and the child.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's just open enough to like, maybe it's Ilum.
Right.
Maybe. So something else that I feel like I always and I will always, every single episode that we do this, shout that out, is of course the soundtrack. I don't know how it gets better every single episode, but damn, it really does. It really does.
Oh, yeah.
Ludwig Göransson, I love you.
Absolutely. I like
all
that
I
there's
wanted to
like little
say.
synth tones for Baby Yoda now. Like he's starting to get his own theme, like especially when he is looking
Yeah.
at the jar, like discovering the eggs the first time. Like you are starting to get into that. So that's
Which is cool. So
very
okay, you bring up something that I noticed too, is that he almost speaks in this episode. Like, it's not just like baby noises anymore. There's a point where he's making noises. They're not words, but it's not just either. I mean, he's sitting there, and it sounds like he's trying to say something. It's after like Frog Lady runs away, and he sees the foot, but it's like, if you go back and watch that, like he's clearly like trying to form words at that point to get Din's attention, and that was something that I picked up on. I was like, he's getting older.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with he's starting to get his own like musical theme in the shots where he's by himself or doing things, or like lustfully looking at somebody else's eggs so he can eat them. Hungry eyes, like it's just.
Man, does Snowbike Mike watch The Mandalorian? Because he still hasn't tried eggs yet, right? We gotta change that.
He tried frog eggs.
Subliminal messaging.
The man looked at me over the internet and said he's never seen an egg in his life, and I can't. I don't know what's up with that. If for all of you that don't understand that joke, I'm sorry. I don't think we have the time to explain that by now. But just walk away knowing this: Snowbike Mike does not eat eggs. It's insanity. He is not like the child who only eats eggs.
Alien and frog, or spider and frog. I guess
Spider and frog. Oh yeah. So let's just talk about that again. I mean, does Din ever feed the child at all? Because I mean, he went and just ate this spider out of an egg, man. He's just like, "What's this? I'm gonna eat it."
In the last step, obviously, I think there might have been some sort of time jump but like they had that huge crate dragon meat block on their
Right.
speeder,
Yeah.
and it was completely gone. So that's a big piece of meat. I don't know how many days that would last.
Mhm.
An adult and a child, but
Right.
man,
Which
I,
what a cool little reference to one of the displays that they have up in Galaxy's Edge, to where there's it's an actual like food stand that you can go to, but they have like this animatronic droid like
yeah.
cooking meat using a pod racer engine, and he's like rotating a big spit full of meat, and so they do that exact same thing in this episode, and I was like, that's clever, I like that. That's fun.
absolutely.
That's fun. Also, shout out to Galaxy's Edge, to where if you want your very own Krykna spider, you can buy one there at the pet shop. It's like that. It's like that big, and
No.
it rattles.
Ooh.
It's gross. It's gross. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah.
I got my chance cubes. I'm good. I have them somewhere here.
The boy, Red, his mother.
Oh,
I hate that I
man.
know that. I hate that I have that line memorized. Well, boys, to wrap this up, how would you stack this episode compared to last week's? Josh, you first.
It's definitely. I wouldn't say it's as good as last week's. I don't want to say it's that drastic of a step down. But yeah, it's still, like I said earlier, lacks propelling the plot forward. But hopefully, like we've seen in the trailer, like the woman and her husband show up on a dock in the trailer, so we know that it's at least going somewhere. And yeah, it's, I don't know.
That's fair.
I
That's
hate
fair.
spiders. I hate spiders.
It's the worst part,
and,
dude.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
This
the
episode,
worst
I don't know
part.
if I'll ever come back to.
Jordan.
I mean, definitely below last week's episode, but not talking down this one, but more talking up the pilot.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah,
That's
I would
fair.
definitely say.
That's fair. Brett.
Yeah, I kind of like what I said at the beginning. I still had a lot of fun watching this episode, just from numerous factors of the technical aspects of the show, little nuggets that I kind of read into with Din, and then also kind of what Josh and Jordan said is like, the episode one was such a high point in terms of any kind of TV for me, honestly. So obviously, and this might be my own personal preference, but if every week is like this, like intense high point, like kind of episode, it gets kind of rote, it gets kind of mundane, and you get used to it. So this level was a little more low key, so I appreciated it from that aspect, that the next time the show gets bonkers, we'll be a few weeks removed from episode one to appreciate each like intense massive battle, or something revelatory. So I did like it from that perspective for sure.
Absolutely. It kind of sounds like we're all on various levels of kind of the same area, where I don't think I liked it as much as last week's episode, but I like the way that Jordan put it, to where it was it's not a to say that I disliked this episode. It's just kind of speaking to the strength of last week's episode, because that one is my favorite episode in the show so far. Like it was just excellent. But again, I'm not bothered by the monster of the week kind of feel. So it's like when they go off and do these side quests, if you want to call them that, like it doesn't bother me as much. I like seeing some stuff that's kind of removed from everything that's going on, and it doesn't bother me. I did before I sign off also want to shout out that they're going to a planet called Trask, which is a Knights of the Old Republic reference, as Trask Olgo was a character that showed up at the very beginning of Knights of the Old Republic and dies like a bitch.
Never forget, man. Never forget Trask.
And so they said Trask, and I was like, aha!
I know that reference.
No other significance
Oh, man.
other than that. He's in the game for like 5 minutes, but but it's interesting that they use that name. I was like, I can't not be a reference to that. Like it has to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, thank you guys again as always for coming on. This is the Waypoint, and thank you, audience, for sitting here and watching it. Of course, we will be back next week to watch Chapter 2, Season 3 of The Mandalorian. If you haven't already, be sure to go check out the Waypoint Rank Show, where we are currently going through the PS Plus collection. We've got one more episode coming out on launch day of the PS5, so be sure to come see how the rest of our list stacks up. And of course, we're also going to talk about the games that got added to it immediately after we posted our first episode as well. which was cool. That was really cool. All right, boys, where can we find you? Brett?
I try to stream every day over at twitch.tv/JimTasty. Playing through Mass Effect right now. I couldn't wait. Once I saw the remastered announcement, I was like, all right, I'm playing it now too, just so I can play it again
Yes.
later.
Yes,
Dusted
dude.
off the old PS3 and everything.
Dude, yeah. Someone in my chat was like, "What is this? What system is this?" Because we're getting to that point now where the PS3 is old.
Yeah, it's getting there for sure. But definitely check out Brett at twitch.tv/JimTasty. Dude's an excellent streamer. Jordan, where can we find you?
Find me on Twitter at Jordan_Deeb. Yeah.
Throwing around hot dicks on Twitter every single day, and I love it. I'm here for it.
Thank you.
It's amazing. Joshua, you mean?
Some other Josh on all platforms: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, MySpace, not Facebook because it's Facebook, but yeah,
No Parlor account yet?
no Parlor account. No, OnlyFans, some other Josh too. So
Also,
That's
don't
all.
forget your second Twitch, some other Josh.
yes, that as well. Shout out
What's your-
Robert Hyland for
Back up.
that bit.
What's your favorite soda, Josh?
My favorite soda,
Mm-hmm.
Diet Dr Pepper.
I thought you were gonna plug your other account, but
Oh right, number one RC Cola fan. Right.
oh man, dude, I had like one RC Cola in my fridge, and now like it's it's forever.
Number one RC Cola fan. I love it.
man.
Of course, I am RoboPack. You can find me 3 to 5 times a week on twitch.tv/RoboPack92. And this is the WayPoint. Please check out everything else that WayPoint is doing on YouTube. Go follow us on Twitter. We have an Instagram that we don't use. And there's other stuff going on too, of course, as always. I will see you guys again next week. This is the way.